Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about another problem related to global warming, climate change, as well as greenhouse gas emission, that is ocean acidification. So we are going to discuss in details in the context of the Great Lakes region, which is at the border of US and Canada. It is also turning acidic like the oceanic regions of the world. So we are going to talk about what are the major causes or main causes of acidification of the water bodies, as well as what is its possible outcome or impact on the marine life as well as the overall marine ecosystem. So let us try to understand this, the topics of discussion for our today's video. So first of all, we'll discuss introduction of the given topic. Then we'll talk about from the geographical perspective, what is the location and the characteristic and the features of the Great Lakes region. Then we'll talk about the causes of acidification in the oceans in general and also in the individual water bodies across the earth. Then we'll talk about the impact of the acidification of water bodies. And finally, we'll try to understand what can more be done, or in one way, what we can conclude about this particular topic. So first of all, to give you a brief introduction, in recent times, scientists have observed that there is increase in acidification of the Great Lakes region at the border of US and Canada, that is in Northern America. And thus, to understand the extent of acidification, they are building a sensor network to detect the trends of the water chemistry of the lake that is called as Lake Huron, which is one of the 5 Great Lakes of North America. And it is going to be the first step that scientists from various different institutions are taking to develop a system that will be capable of measuring the CO2 as well as the pH level of the Great Lakes region over a period of several years. That is the recently a report that has been published in Noted Journal talks about. So let us first try to understand where exactly Great Lakes are situated. So first, to give you a brief idea, if we talk about Great Lakes, this is a group of 5 lakes, which are Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario. If you want to remember it, you can also make an acronym such as HOMES, which is easier to remember, where first letter, each of the letter here represent the first letter of the name of the lake. So we have Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. Now, except Lake Michigan, all of these 4 lakes form a natural boundary, or we can say geographical boundary between Canada in the north and United States of America in the south. Lake Michigan is the only lake that is completely within the territorial boundary of United States of America. The most important point about this lake we can consider, we can understand that it is believed to be the world's largest freshwater body by the surface area, and it accommodates almost 20% of the fresh water present on the surface of the earth. The lake has formed somewhere about 20,000 years ago when the earth was entering into the phase of warming after an extended period of cooling. And that is why, as warming happened, the glaciers that are present in the northern side of these lakes started to melt, and the melt water then filled up the depression, filled up the basin that has been created due to the forces of erosion. So that is how the 5 lakes that is collectively called as Great Lakes have come into existence. Apart from that, the lake also plays a very important role in the economic life of US and Canada, because around this lake area it is a very rich in terms of natural resources such as coal, iron ore, limestones are found here. And not only that, it also serves as a very important medium of transportation or mode of transportation by allowing movement of the ships and the vessels. And then further, the lakes are also connected by St. Lawrence Seaway to the Atlantic seaboard on the eastern coast of USA or eastern coast of North America in general. Not only that, from the environment and biodiversity perspective, lake is believed to support more than 3,500 different species of plants and animal whose life and whose habitat can be threatened if the acidification trend if acidification keeps on happening in the same trend. So these are some of the important points that you have to remember from the perspective of Great Lakes. So when we talk about the measurement of the acidity of these lakes, let us look at the current trends. First of all, at the global level, and then we'll come to this lakes level as well. So first of all, what we see that especially in last 200 years, due to the human or anthropogenic emissions via industries, via vehicles, there has been continuous increase in the level of atmospheric carbon dioxide. To give you a brief idea, in somewhere in the 18th century, when industrialization has just begun, the level of carbon dioxide in atmosphere was about 290 ppm. However, recent data that we have from year 2016, it shows that the carbon dioxide concentration has increased all the way up to 420 ppm. So this increase in the atmospheric carbon dioxide, which then gradually is absorbed by the oceans, by the water bodies on the Earth's surface, is the reason why the oceans of the world are turning acidic. For example, if we talk about, scientists believe that almost 30% of carbon dioxide that is emitted in the atmosphere in turn is again absorbed by the water of the oceans. And if the same rate of carbon dioxide emission keeps on, or we are able to, we are if we keep on emitting the same extent of carbon dioxide or even increase in the future, it is believed that by the end of this century, that is by year 2100, even the Great Lakes region might approach acidity at around the same rate as the ocean. This is a very concerning factor because Great Lakes are a very good source, a very major source of the freshwater reservoir. And surface water of the ocean could have a pH around 7.8 again by the end of year 2100 if we did not take remedial measures to prevent ocean acidification. So this is the current range that we have from the different studies conducted across the world. So the most important question that can come into our mind is that why at the first instance acidification happens or acidification occurs in the ocean. So this we can understand from very simple mechanism. As we know, we have a large volume of carbon dioxide that is present in the atmosphere, but the carbon dioxide gas is also readily soluble in water. And that is why at the boundary of atmosphere and the ocean surface, CO2 is continuously mixing with the oceanic water, and thus when CO2 dissolves in the oceanic water, it forms a compound that is called as hydrocarbonic acid, H2CO3. And then further, this, since this is a kind of weak acid that is developing here, this H2CO3 then further dissociates into HCO3 plus hydrogen plus iron. That means what we can say basically is happening due to absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by the ocean water bodies. What happens is we have extra amount of hydrogen plus iron that is released, and as you know that H plus ion is the one is ion that basically represents your acidity, and that is why acidity of the ocean water body also increases. To understand it more clearly, this is the pH scale. pH scale is a scale that is used to measure the acidity of any material. So closer you are to the zero, more acidic you are, and if the pH value is higher than 7, then it is considered as alkaline. So 7 is something that we consider as a neutral value. That means the material is neither acidic nor basic. So if you look at the extent of acidification, what scientists have concluded that in last 200 years, the pH of surface ocean water has fallen by 0.1 pH unit. Now you will think that for such a long period of time of 200 years, the decline of pH value by just 0.1 units should not be so much worrisome, but that is not true because pH scale is a logarithmic scale. That means when we're talking about that 0.1 pH units change has happened or decline has happened, it means that almost 30% increase in acidity has been observed in the oceans of the world. So every 0.1 unit of change in pH represent 30% increase in the acidity of the ocean water. So in one way, what we can say that in last 200 years, ocean water has become 30% more acidic as compared to earlier time. So this is the extent of acidification. Second point, what we can say that even if talk about contemporary time, the ocean's average pH stands somewhere about 8.1. That we can say it is to the basic side of the pH scale. But if the rate of carbon dioxide emission remains same or changes or increases, or ocean acidification rate remains same, then it is believed that by year 2100, the value of the pH of ocean water will become somewhere to 7.8. And last time the ocean pH was this low, that is 7.8, was during the middle Miocene period, which was almost 14 to 17 million years ago. That is why ocean acidification in the future is going to become a very big problem along with the climate change and the global warming issues. Now, what we have to understand is that why we are so much concerned about the acidification, how it is going to impact the marine life or human life in general. So, first of all, we can understand the impact of acidification on the marine organisms which are called as shell builders. Shell builders are those organisms which take up materials from the sea water and then build up an outer layer on their body or outer surface on their body, which is mainly made up of calcium carbonate. To give you example of such organisms, we have oysters and corals are the best example of cell builder organism. So if ocean acidification is increasing, what will happen is there will be increase in the number of H plus ions as we have discussed just now, and thus the carbonate ion that the cell building organism require for the development of calcium carbonate, these carbonate ion will not be available to them. Why? Because this carbonate ion will be more attracted toward this H plus ion, and they will form this weak acid, that is the carbonic acid. Thus, due to lack of carbonate ion in seawater, the organisms will not have sufficient structure, sufficient outer layer on their body. And this we can see from the recent example also that has been observed by the scientists, that an organism that is called as pteropod, which is also called as sea butterfly, if we compare or if we believe that the acidity of the ocean is 7.8 as it is expected in 2100, in that kind of acidic environment, the shells of pteropods slowly dissolved in 45 days period. That means it will cause a decline of the outer shell and thus finally and ultimately loss of the life of various marine organisms. And due to this, we can believe that severe impact will also be observed on the entire food wave as well as the marine habitat, because coral themselves are we can say coral reef in themselves or coral area themselves are area where we have very rich biodiversity, very rich marine biodiversity. They support a very huge marine life. So all this will be threatened, and this entire food wave and habitat will have a severe impact due to the increase in the acidity of the ocean. So this is the first impact on the shell building organism. Second impact we can understand on the various varieties and species of fishes and seaweeds. So scientists believe that some fish such as clownfish, as you can see from the picture here, their ability to detect predators will be decreased in the highly acidic environment, and that is when they will not be able to get sufficient food, and thus this will be transmitted to the entire food chain from the bottom to top, and thus overall decline in the marine biodiversity, number of marine organisms can also be expected. Similarly, it also affects the ability of many fishes such as larval clawfish to locate suitable habitat, and by the research that has been conducted in lab, it is believed that the species such as mitten crabs, which is found along the coastal waters of China, their mortality rates will be tripled if the ocean acidity reaches a level of 7.8 by year 2100. So overall, there will be decline in the food from the ocean as well, because the growth of the seaweed will also be impacted. And for a large number of people in the world, a major source of protein in their diet comes from the marine resources, comes from the sea resources. So that will also be threatened. The apart from that, also we can say that some scientists believe that it will not be always have or only have negative impact of the increase in ocean acidification. There will be certain benefits also which we can observed due to increase in acidity of the oceanic water. The first benefit will be because obviously there will be increase in concentration of carbon dioxide in the oceanic water, and carbon dioxide is required for the photosynthesis by the autotroph, and that is why the plants such as algae and seagrasses which grow in the oceanic water, they will benefit from these higher CO2 conditions, and their density will increase in the oceanic areas. Second, also what scientists believe that since we are having a problem of increase in CO2 concentration that is causing global warming, melting of the glaciers as well as climate change. So if more carbon dioxide is being absorbed in the oceanic water, it will leave less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and thus it will mitigate the impact of global warming and thus help us in fighting through the fighting against the challenge of climate change. However, overall, what we can understand that no matter whether also no matter whether talk about the benefits or whether talk about the negative effects of the acidification, overall it will lead to permanent change in the structure of the marine and oceanic ecosystem. That is something we can say for sure. So after all this discussion, what we can conclude in finally that scientists have said that without a collective global effort reducing the concentration of atmospheric CO2, not much can be done to stop the acidification of the Great Lakes, and not only Great Lakes, other water bodies of the Earth as well. And it is believed that even if all countries will take actions to arrest the increase in carbon emissions, the lake would continue to acidify due to the carbon dioxide, because it is already present in the atmosphere. Huge volume of carbon dioxide is present in the atmosphere, and along with the carbon laden water runoff from the land, as the report has said. Because for acidification, you need carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide in the water is not only coming from the atmospheric gases, carbon dioxide gas in atmosphere, but also one major source of carbon dioxide or carbon radiator carbonated compound is we have the discharge that is coming from the land area. So unless and until we make sure that these discharges, this concentration decreases, we cannot stop ocean acidification. So I hope you understood about this particular topic, the concept of ocean acidification and what is the current status of Great Lakes and the North America. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with the fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more sustainable content. Thank you very much.